Welcome to Red-tastic. Story 1. My brother is 3 years older than me and my sister is 8 years younger than me. Information: I am their daughter. Years ago, I went to my mom as normal to ask her to pay my tuition for my 3rd year of university. She got extremely frustrated and angrily told me to take a semester off from university. This came out of nowhere. We got into an argument and she admitted that she couldn't pay for both my and my brother's tuition anymore. My mom told me they budgeted for our tuition, expecting us both to graduate in 4 years. My brother should have graduated by the end of my 1st year of university, but he is not made for studying and is still in a transitional college. Usually, people only stay in that transitional college for 1 to 2 years, but he was there for 5 at that point. I was a straight A student all my life. It was a long argument, but basically I threatened to drop out of university. My mom was relieved because that's what she really wanted, for me to get a full-time job and give them all the money to support the whole family. After that, I paid my tuition by getting a student loan. I got 3 part-time jobs and paid off my student loan by the time I graduated. I graduated in the expected time of 4 years with a double major and extended minor. I did not tell my parents any of this, but was sure they knew everything. I graduated debt-free. I did not invite them to my graduation. I moved out after graduation. Note, my parents and brother abused me, but it's too long of a story to post here. They had no financial struggles to lead to this. They just realized that my brother will take much more time graduating than expected, so they wanted to take the money allocated for me to use for my brother instead. My brother ended up bouncing from college to college before finally giving up after spending 10 plus years in college, but never getting any degree or certificate. Yes, my parents paid for all that. Years later, my sister struggled to get into a university. She didn't get accepted to any originally, but wrote an essay for a second chance and got into one. After 1 year, she dropped out because she couldn't handle it. She is too proud to go to a college and get a 2-year degree there, which I think she can do easily. My parents were going to pay for her 4 years of university since my brother had stopped going to university at that point. My mom called me recently out of the blue, screaming at me for never inviting them to my graduation, which was like 8 or 9 years ago. She said I am the only one in the family to graduate from a university and that I'm an a-hole for not letting them see me walk the stage. I literally answered the phone with hello. I stayed quiet for a good 10 minutes of her screaming on the phone, and when she finally stopped, I said, I don't know what you're talking about. I dropped out of university and never graduated. I have to go now, bye, and hung up. Edit. It's a typical Asian mother thing to do, to be honest. My mother just wanted her oldest and only son to be proud of and wanted so desperately for him to succeed. This part I understand, that she was willing to choose him over his daughter. This part I don't understand and think it's unfair. Education and getting a degree is very important for Asian families. So I do feel kind of shitty that it was petty and that I held a grudge for 2 years up to my graduation. But at the same time, I was working and studying without stopping to pay for my tuition, so the grudge was ongoing. Every day I remembered why I had to work extra hard, while my brother was effing around and wasting the money that could have been used for my degree. Thank you all for your kind words and praises. It was really emotional reading all those replies. I tried to reply to as many as I can and apologize to those I didn't reply to, but please know I'm so thankful. Not the a-hole. My heart hurts for you, OP. I'm so sorry your parents didn't fairly value your achievements while they were busy chasing an unrealistic dream about your brother. Parents are not supposed to have favorites, and being so blatant about it has had major consequences for you. I just hope you come to feel that you don't have to hide your degree because you worked so hard to get it, even in the face of pretty extreme odds, and you did it all by yourself. I hope you'll get to a place where you can reduce contact with them for your peace of mind. Now for some comments. After you took charge of your own future, you owed your family nothing, especially if they abused you growing up. Congrats OP on your achievements. You should be proud of yourself. If you've distanced yourself from them, I would say that they are trying to get back into your good books because you seem to be the only successful child. Ignore them. They don't deserve you. I didn't realize there was a culture thing involved. I can see more now how she had such high hopes for her son. However, as you said, your track record was a lot better and she should have been able to predict that you would be her best shot at graduating and fulfilling that pride she wanted. You absolutely have no reason to feel bad for being petty. In fact, I don't even really see it as being petty. You were genuinely hurt by their action and so didn't want them at your graduation. The fact that so much time has passed and she's now taking it out on you suggests that potentially she's feeling a bit of guilt. Not the a-hole, and while I come from a different cultural and family background, from what I've seen in your replies to comments, I had a similar experience with my mother. She insisted I focus on my studies and not get a part-time job, and then threatened to cut my funding multiple times over petty disagreements. I'm graduating in August. Made it through with student loans and financial support from my dad. Last month, my mom was asking about when I graduate and said, "You'd better invite me to your graduation." Thanks to that, which shall not be named, I'm not having an official graduation, but I'm not inviting her to the mini celebration I'm planning to have instead. Story 2. Throw away because it's personal. When I was 10, my mom found out my dad cheated on her. She took me and my sister, who is 3 years younger than me, and left. They got a divorce and he got weekend custody and paid child support. Growing up, my mom always said nasty things about my dad, constantly saying he wasn't a good person, and so many other things. She always said he ruined her. At age 11, my sister died. She had cancer and they caught it too late. It was a very difficult time for my family. When she passed, I started to see my dad less. He would make excuses like he had plans or was working, something stupid. Then it was on my mom to support me. He did still pay child support regularly, though sometimes late. It was always paid within the time frame. But a few years ago, I got back in touch with him. He wrote me a letter and apologized for the way he acted while my sister and I were growing up. He explained her death pushed him to start drinking heavily, and eventually it got to the point where he realized it wasn't safe for me to be around. We started to talk more and got to know each other again. Now, we're a lot closer. He's in AA and has really cleaned up his act. He's now remarried to a sweet woman, and they've formed a really great life together, and I'm proud he's come this far. My fiancé, 27 male and I 26 female, are getting married and planning it all out. We got engaged right before stay-at-home orders in the USA. We planned to push the wedding out a while because of COVID. We still let the immediate family know, and I had asked my dad if he would walk me down the aisle. My fiancé supports me in my decision and he's close to my dad too. My mom knows I reconnected with my dad. She was angry at first, but then got over it with the stipulation that she doesn't want to hear about him or see him. I didn't think this would extend to my wedding, but again, I never asked her about it at the time we discussed this. Now she's angry because he will be there, and she doesn't want to be near him. She said he hurt her and he abandoned us and how he wouldn't be a good person to have at a wedding since he ruined their marriage. She said, if he's going to be there, I'm not sure I'll be able to go. Now I'm angry. I love my mom. She raised me. She has always been there for me. But I also love my father. I finally understand why he wasn't there for us. I understand why he pushed us away. He knows his reasoning was just an excuse, but it was the reason he did what he did. And I see how much work he's put into having a better life. And no matter how much I tell this to my mom, she's saying I'm abandoning her for him. I want my dad at my wedding. I want my mom at my wedding. I feel like I'm still putting my mom in a hard position. but I feel like she should be able to put this aside for one day for her own daughter. Am I the a-hole for inviting my dad to my wedding even though my mom doesn't want him there? OP, you're not the a-hole for inviting your dad to your wedding. You two have reconnected and you've forgiven him for the things he did in the past. Your mother is not an a-hole either for not wanting to be in the same place as him. Your dad abandoned her and he deeply hurt her in ways you probably won't be able to understand. Her experience with your dad is different. Your mother hasn't forgiven him like you have, and that's okay. I hope she changes her mind and just tolerates his presence for you on your big day. I hope you have a great wedding. Now for some comments. You're right. She should be able to put this day away for her daughter. Your dad has become a genuine person in your life, and even though he's messed up in the past, doesn't mean he can't be forgiven. If you have to, set it up so they do not have to interact. But at the same time, try to remember what your mom was put through. She doesn't want to be reminded of the past, so again, try to set it up so they don't have to interact. No a-holes here. No a-holes here. Everyone here is entitled to how they feel. You were willing to hear your dad's side and reconcile with him. Your mom is not comfortable around him. Maybe she will always hold a grudge. Maybe the hurt runs too deep. Whatever the reason, she's been clear that she doesn't want to be around your dad. Since he's in AA, he likely tried to make amends with her at some point, and she isn't accepting of it. That's okay too. You're not an a-hole for inviting him, but you likely will need to accept the fallout if your mom truly cannot be in the same room as him. Her experience with him is wildly different than yours. She likely knows and experienced things very differently than you did. No a-holes here. It's okay for your mother not to want to ever share space with him again. I can understand her feelings and position. I've missed a lot of family functions avoiding people I've cut off. Just because you forgive someone and let them back in your life doesn't mean someone else who has also been wronged needs to share your feelings. It's okay for you to reconcile with your father. That's fine. It's okay for you to invite both to the wedding. However, you might just have to come to terms with the fact that you might not have both parents at the wedding. It might hurt, but that's how it is. Story 3. Some important things to note. My wife is very pregnant. My grandfather is in his 70s, and sometimes his comments reflect his age and the time in which he grew up. He's not a bad man, but his thinking can be old-fashioned. I love my granddad dearly and want him to be a part of my life and our son's life. My granddad hasn't seen me or my wife in person in many months. The last time he saw my wife, she was not noticeably pregnant. That is no longer the case. I think this is important because it helps explain some of his reaction. We invited him over for dinner one night last week, and the first thing he did when he saw my wife was tell her how big she was looking. He made several comments like that during the night and asked her if she was carrying twins or triplets. My wife pulled me aside and told me she was bothered by his comments. But I asked her to be nice and not say anything since she knows my grandfather means well, but doesn't know better. She agreed to let it go and not say anything. What really upset her though was what he said later. He told my wife that she looked how a married woman should look, that is, pregnant, and that it made him happy to see her full of life and embracing motherhood because it looked good on her. He also told us that he hoped she would have many kids because nothing was better than being a parent, and that was the most important thing we and she could do. None of what he said surprised me. I know he didn't mean anything by it and in his own way was giving her a compliment, but she doesn't see it that way, which I understand. I don't think he is right for what he said, but I know he means well. It's also not easy for him at this age to understand why he shouldn't say things like this, when that's the way he's always thought. It's for these reasons that I didn't say anything to him and then refused when my wife asked me to confront him about it after he left. I don't believe it would do any good anyways. He won't understand why she got so upset and he's old enough that I feel he should get a pass. I don't know how much longer he'll be with us. and the last thing I want to do is alienate him or sour whatever time we have left together. My wife feels like I abandoned her and did not support her, and thinks I'm an a-hole for supporting my grandfather and his outdated views over her feelings. I think she is wrong and doesn't appreciate the bigger picture here. Am I the a-hole? Now for some comments. I mean, my dad is 70 and my sister just had a baby, and he would straight up smack anybody who made those comments. The older my parents get, the more I realize that being set in your ways is a choice. Now, there have been plenty of times where my parents have said stuff and us kids in union say, no guys, you can't say that anymore. And their response is, okay, what's the correct term these days? You're the a-hole, a giant honking a-hole. Your grandfather has full possessions of his faculties and is fully capable of understanding basic manners. The comments he made would have been rude and creepy in any era. It's also absolute bullshit that older people are incapable of changing their behavior. They can if the people around them aren't committing to coddling them and giving passes to their shittiness. You massively failed your wife and showed her that you value conflict avoidance over her being comfortable and not getting harassed by your family. Boo. You're the a-hole. It doesn't matter how old he is or what his beliefs are. He doesn't have a right to comment on her body. The comment about how it is how a woman should look like and how she should have many children is sexist. What is she? Just a breeding mare? Her feelings can't be valid, and she can't have any boundaries with your father. I'm around 70 plus aged people all the time, and none of them say inappropriate things. It's just because she's a woman. You need to consider how she feels. It doesn't mean you have to be angry or rude to your father. All you need to do is say, let's not comment on significant other's appearance. She doesn't appreciate it.